At the 15, he's on his feet. 10, 5, touchdown!
The Jake Nulph Show.
Go Burrow.
Welcome to another edition of the Jake Nulph Show here at Charlie's Pub and Eatery. Of course, on the heels of a big win, a big county win, a big PSAC win, a bounce-back win. We hand out awards. We feed linemen. We feed quarterbacks. A big week. And I know we start with the awards after a win, Coach. A great team effort. All three phases impacted. But it goes deeper than that. And a theme that we're going to get to, the details. The details start with practice. So your awards for the week.
Yeah, so on offense, offensive player of the game for us was Brian Trobell. Brian had 25 carries for 140 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also had 2 catches for 13 yards, 1 for a first down. And then he had 163 all-purpose yards, Joe, because he had the 1 kickoff return. So defensively, and our special guest tonight, also the PSAC West Defensive Player of the Week was Toby Cline. Toby had 5 tackles, 2 interceptions, a pass breakup that took away a touchdown.
I was going to say the pass breakup might have been bigger than the 2 picks, in all honesty. I mean, you talk about timing being everything. That came at the right time.
Tremendous play, and credit to Toby because we always preach about the finish. And that was just a play where he strained. Even though the kid caught the ball, he finished to rip it out, and it was rolled incomplete. So, again, a great effort by Toby Cline. And then on special teams, I had to give it to the entire kickoff unit, Joe, and here's why. We kicked off 7 times on Saturday. We had a surprise onside kick that started the second half, which we executed. But 5 of the other 6 kickoffs, Joe, we pinned Mercyhurst inside their own 20-yard line. So, and that's a really solid unit for us. We played 13 guys on Saturday on that kickoff unit. It was Jerry Dinkins, Amari Jones, Tristan and CJ Waldeer, Toby Cline, and then in the second half, we rolled Ahmad Brown, who did a great job in relief there. Jaden Resch, Killian Cooper, Jake LaRue, Mike Flowers, and then Gavin Ennis rolled in the first quarter there. So when you can roll, and then obviously Reed kicking the ball off with Reed Martin, when you get 13 guys that are flying downfield and covering kicks like that, it's just a tremendous recipe. And then we wouldn't, you had mentioned practice and the urgency. We had 3 scout team players of the week. The offensive scout team player of the week was Cameron Zangle. The defensive scout team player of the week was Nate Yule. And then the special team scout player of the week was Caden Thomas. Those 3 guys have been giving us tremendous effort for the first 5 weeks of the season, and they're getting recognized tonight. So big win. Really pleased with how we played in all 3 phases.
And we talk about, after the California loss, the details, the lack of execution, and, a handful of plays can lead to a huge point differential on the scoreboard. We went 180 this past week.
Yeah.
The plays came when they needed to be made. We mentioned Toby Cline's big pass breakup, a couple of sequences where you make heads-up plays that extend drives or ruin a drive. What was the difference? Was it practice? Was it preparation? But it was a huge difference where, especially in the second half, where the devil was in the details and the details became dominant.
Yeah, and that's where, in the first half, I felt like that we were moving the ball really well. The credit to our offense, Joe, we only had 2 3-and-outs the entire game. We had 1 in the first half, 1 in the second half. We were going 6+ multiple play drives, and then we had big explosive plays for touchdowns. And, that all starts up front. And, as a team, we rushed for 266 yards. Brian went for 140. Matt Carlisle went for $125, I believe, in a touchdown. And then he was really efficient in the pass game, 10 of 17 for 115 and a touchdown there. You had mentioned the timely plays. I felt like we made plays when they needed to be made. Mercyhurst, credit to them. They take a 4-play first possession they have. They hit the very first play of the game, they hit a monster pass play. We busted a coverage. And we responded, though, offensively with some of those timely plays. And the balanced attack on offense, when you look at those timely plays, I look at, Armani Bailey in the fourth quarter off a play-action pass had a tremendous play down the sideline, which set up our last touchdown to Mike Watkins, who had the timely catch in the red zone for the touchdown. Hop wasn't real active on the stat sheet, but he was really balanced in the way that in his run blocking, and then he made some plays in the pass game when his number was called. Thad had a bunch of timely plays. The one in the third quarter, Joe, it was kind of, we tied it at 24, and defense, tremendous job getting a 3 and out to get our offense the ball back. And Coach DeMayo dialed up a vertical play to Mike Watkins, and I thought the throw in the route from Matt to Mike Watkins was just exactly what we needed at that time, and it drew a pass interference call, Joe, which gave us a 15-yard, and then we started rolling. So, but I look at with C.J. Waldeer, he had a quiet 8 tackles, I think, but he was everywhere. We were pretty balanced defensively from a statistical standpoint. It wasn't clean in the first half, and that's a credit to Mercyhurst. Those guys were giving, they were taking what we were given, and they were short pass. They were very patient in that way. And we gave up a couple big plays, but I thought that in the second half, as a collective football team, OD special teams, we made all those timely plays, and it really showed up. You mentioned the interception that we needed from Toby early, and then he got one in the second series of the second half when Mercyhurst started moving the ball, and Toby come up with a tremendous play, and then we just feed off of that. Hats off, Joe, to our leadership on this football team. We have come a long way in 5 weeks, and the conversation piece that the Fighting Scot faithful don't hear at home is our guys are having real conversations like, hey, offense to defense, hang in there, we got your back. We're going to make plays for you. We are playing a team game in all 3 phases, and that's the really exciting thing. And Craig can tell me on this. I'm not real sure, but I'm going to guess that there was close to 4,000, if not more, Fighting Scot faithful there on
great crowd,
Saturday.
great atmosphere.
Right?
4,200
fans there. And just the atmosphere and the energy, it helps a lot, and our guys feed off of that. So, but it started on Monday night after Cal, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We had a really physical week of practice, and it showed on Saturday because I felt like as the game went on, we continued to impose our will. And when you score 19 straight, when you shut out an opponent like our defense did in the second half, and then you limit their rushing attack to -4 yards.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of really good things.
And there was a big chunk at the end that got it to -4. It was considerably lower. That was an unbelievable performance.
And talking to Coach Papley, we had mentioned up until that draw play on 2nd and 20 that they got 18 yards on that one run. Their longest run of the day was 6 yards. And again, that starts with the defensive line, the linebackers, just owning their gaps and physically changing the line of scrimmage.
Well, that was leading to my next question. Who gave the great halftime speech? Was it you or Coach DeMayo or Coach Papley or all 3? Because it was a much different team in all 3 phases that came out of the locker room. And, obviously you alluded, you go in down 24-21, and then you win 40-24. You pitch a shutout in the second half. Yeah. You eat up the time of possession, ground and pound. You got the big plays. You got the splash plays. Totally different feel. What, without getting too into the details, what was that halftime conversation like?
Well, I know the thing is we got the ball that Mercyhurst had taken the lead 24-21. We were inside of a minute. And I told our kickoff return unit, look, let's just get something to where we can get our offense and try to go down. We know that Reed Martin has a big leg. So if we feel like if we can get anywhere inside the 35-yard line, we give Reed a chance to make a kick. And Matt broke a long run down inside the 30. We called the timeout. We rolled Reed out there, and we just didn't execute the kick. So we went into half down 3 where it could have been tied. Credit to Coach DeMayo. Coach Papley, we got all of our guys in there. And there was a look in our eye that we always talk about. We want to learn lessons from lessons past, and we don't want history to repeat itself. We come out in the second half against Cal, and we just didn't perform. We left a lot out there. Well, at halftime, coaches made corrections. Players responded to those corrections. And then, we look at Reed, and he's a weapon, Joe. We talk about it every week. For us to kick the onside kick to get our momentum, we needed the momentum swing. And Reed dials it up, Mike Flowers executes it, and we go down and we tie the score. And from that point on, we rolled, and it was just a tremendous team effort. Again, hats off to our players, our coaches, the support staff. It's exactly what we needed for a large homecoming crowd on Saturday. It was a win.
You know, obviously Toby Cline is going to join us in the next segment here in the Jake Nulph Show, live from Charlie's Pub and Eatery, Route 99, just past the lake. But another guy that it felt that was this close and finally did get home late for a sack. I thought Ty Thornton in the pass rush was relentless. He was just nonstop.
Yeah, and I thought from the front standpoint, again, when you limit their run game the way that we were able to do on Saturday, and I thought Coach Papley did a great job in stunning our front and pass downs, which really created some mismatch issues where it wasn't just Ty Thornton. Dunmire showed up tremendously as well. You know, those guys were literally, I always say that the front supports the back end and vice versa. So when you don't have to cover as long and you're generating pressure, that always helps. And then the ability to cover and allow the guys to tee off up front, it was just a balanced plan of attack. You know, and honestly, Joe, I'm looking around. It's nice to see a lot of our guys.
Yeah, but they earned it. They earned it. Certainly that O-line has been playing really well. 200-yard rushers the first time that's happened since 2018. It's been a long time. I believe year one, last time you had a hat trick. Trobo had a hat trick. So a lot of things for that group to be proud of, and certainly we will discuss. Toby Cline, when we come back, this is the Jake Nulph Show, live from Charlie's Pub and Eatery, Route 99, just past the lake. Back with more right after this.
At the 15, he's on his feet. 10, 5, touchdown!
The Jake Nulph Show.
Go Burrow.
Welcome back to the Jake Nulph Show as we are moving along. We're live here at Charlie's Pub and Eatery. We've got Toby Cline, this week's West Defensive Player of the Week. Couple interceptions, couple of tackles, a big pass breakup. He has a big game, then he tells me what kind of questions I'm allowed to ask him. But a monster performance, certainly. And I want to walk me through there, Toby. All of them were momentum swinging plays. But it really felt like the pass breakup in the back of the end zone. I know it's not as cool as an interception in the stat sheet. But when we talk, details has been the theme the last couple of weeks. I'm not certain if you don't make that play, we're sitting here having the same conversation.
Yeah, I mean, that play was huge. That quarterback put it right where it needed to be. I just got my pedal, read the quarterback broke, and I just stayed with it all whole way. And I fought through his hands, and he dropped it. And it was just a big play that needed to be made.
The other one, and I missed this with Coach, I had made a mental note, didn't write it down. Another play that I thought was monster was Malpica's breakup in the back of the end zone. Again, it's all 3-pointers are worth 3 points, but when they're made is a different story. That was a monster breakup. You know, I thought the secondary in particular you've been jumping places and switching guys and rattling guys all over the place. I thought you guys made some really, really timely splash defensive plays.
Yeah. Malpica's play was huge. I mean, it was right after the Mercyhurst player got injured, and it was second and goal. We needed a big stop to hold him at 3, and it was a great play by Malpica to get his hand on that ball and force him for a field goal.
Now, you had, which was the first pick or the second pick off the rebound? The second pick was off the rebound, right?
First pick was.
First pick,
yeah.
okay. Now, when you go, walk us through sort of slow motion, that ball seems like it's got to be in the air forever. Seems like you're never going to get there. What's that like for you in real time, thinking, and then you got to be worried, like, am I going to get my midsection cut in half here as I'm laying out for this thing?
That first interception I had, so I just broke on QB intentions, tip ball, and it just felt like the ball was in there forever. And I just reached my hand out, fell right into my hand, and I just took off and I went to the side. And I was like, did it look slow motion? Because it felt slow motion.
It felt like it was in the air for a long time. And then the second one, like, do you feel like now you're kind of in the headspace of the quarterback? Because the second one was like almost like the guy threw it to you. Walk us through that one.
I was just playing a high rat, just playing the quarterback, got underneath the dig, and luckily I'm 5'8", and quarterback was 5'8". He couldn't really see me through that line, just threw it right to me.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. Urena was, that ball came out in a hurry all the time. Is that more difficult or less difficult knowing that he's got to get that ball out? Because, he's got a live arm. I know he's not a big in stature, but in terms of that ball came out and it came out hot, it came out on time. He was really good at checking it down. Was it situationally? Did it sort of just take you guys some time to get acclimated to his style of play?
Yeah, usually when we play, like, quarterbacks we've been playing, they can throw the ball deep and, like, they can sit in the pocket and they're big guys. We knew coming into the game that he didn't have a live arm as quarterbacks we played recently. Like, he was short game, and he couldn't really throw the ball deep. So we knew that those, like, mesh routes and all of that were his game.
He certainly, threw a good ball, came out on time, and I think as the game wore on, I think, Thornton and Dunmire and Spiegel in pursuit, I think, really started to take their toll. All three levels, defensively, and again, Waldier, Tristan has been asked to, he's been thrown into the fire. He's sort of getting acclimated by fire. But you've got some veteran guys along that group, and you're now one of those veteran guys that have had a lot of snaps. How pleased? I'm not asking record wise, because obviously that I know the answer to that. But how pleased are you with some of the development of some of those young bucks that have been thrown in there? And again, now you look at a guy like Tristan. He's a guy. He has to be a guy because you're running out of guys if he's not one, right? How pleased are you with the development of some of those youngsters?
Next guy up mentality. That's always been the standard. Someone comes down, you gotta be ready to go. And Tristan's done a good job, I believe, of doing that. So young guys just need to be ready to step up and play a new role.
Now, in terms of the ground game, -4 yards, that's obviously a team effort. Really everybody was chasing the football. What's it like? That's got to feel sort of that downhill momentum where everybody's on the same page, swarming to the football, great pursuit, gap discipline. People are just where they're supposed to be. That's got to feel good about, I was at practice this afternoon. It didn't look like you're having a whole lot of fun for a Monday. But if you want to win football games, you got to compete 6 days a week.
Yep. A great defense is running the ball. When you're running the ball, great things happen. For example, my first interception, running the ball. Good things are going to happen when you're running the ball and being in the gaps and all that. After the game, our coach texted us saying -4 yards rushing. I was like, damn.
Yeah. Again, that 18-yard draw too. Yeah. That's the thing. But I wanted to ask you, so we come full circle here, and obviously a great week. The preparation and to be in the right place at the right time is so lazy to call it luck. It's not luck. It's in the film room. It's doing the work. When you you're in particular your back end group. Malcolm's been playing really well this year as well. Sort of, if you could pull the curtain back a little bit, the time in just the simple film study each and every week to get prepared for the new. Spend each and every week getting ready.
We spend a lot of time. We have to look at their schemes, their tendencies, and we just got to prepare each and every week, each and every day. So we're in there in the mornings, afternoons, even at night, just getting extra film in to prepare for the week.
Certainly, now that PSAC play is upon us, each and every game means a little bit more, and off to a good start here in the month of October. Toby Cline, the West Defensive Player of the Week. Couple of picks, a big pass breakup. As we are going to take a quick time out here at Charlie's Pub and Eatery. And Jake Nulph will join us once again as we get you ready for the Gannon Golden Knights, a trip up 79. Toby, congratulations. Thanks for taking some time with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, more to come. This is the Jake Nulph Show live from Charlie's Pub and Eatery, Route 99, just past the lake in Edinburgh.
At the 15, he's on his feet. 10, 5, touchdown!
The Jake Nulph Show.
Go Burrow.
Welcome back to Jake Nulph Show live at Charlie's Pub and Eatery, Route 99, just past the lake. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for all the folks coming out to watch. Of course, Bill Carell and the staff here do such a great job each and every week, and we're so gracious that they're to have us turn the page. Gannon Golden Knights, of course, another rival. Coach Rayburn has had a great year last year.
Yeah.
Lost a lot. Started 0-3, won 2 in a row. They got a PSAC Player of the Week as well. Gannon's got to be feeling pretty good about themselves. 26 points the last 2 weeks, 24. Well, they were down 20-0 and came back.
Yeah, yes they were.
Yeah, so
early too.
Yeah, I mean they've for 2 and 3 is you are what your record says you are, but they got to feel pretty good about themselves. They're a hot football team right now.
They really are, and you know what, Joe? It starts with these guys up front on the O-line. When you look at 4 of their 5, with the exception of the left tackle, who actually started 24 games at Walsh, so he's got a lot of miles on his tires. That's what really gets them started, and then they have tremendous skill at wide receiver. Between 1 and 82,
Baptiste is a good player, man.
He really is, and he
really
hurt us.
player.
He hurt us last year. Their tight end, the Freeman kid, was a converted wide receiver that has bulked up and is now a pivotal part of the offense. They got a new trigger guy at quarterback. He is extremely athletic. He has a very live arm. His arm talent and his velocity and how he throws field, he can make every throw in college football, and he's just dynamic. If nothing's there in the pass game, he's going to hurt you with his legs. So they run a little bit of, run game with him. But everything starts with these guys up front. Coach Rayburn's an O-line guy. He's got his fingerprints all over this offense and the Mount Union background that he has. And then defensively, to me, their secondary is
Farnsworth is a stud.
He's
really good
two-time
player.
All-PSAC guy there. He's a physical guy. He's got energy. I like the way he plays. He's going to show up in the run game and in the pass game as well. You'd mentioned their special teams. Their field goal kicker had 3 field goals, was PSAC West Player of the Week. He went into a very, very physical Seton Hill team on the road, which is a tough place to play, and walked away with a win there. You can tell when you watch the Clarion game and them being able to rally from down 20-0 to win that game, carried over to this last week against Seton Hill. I mean, look, this is going to be a physical 4-quarter, rivalry type feel to it, and we got to be even better than we have been to go up to a tough environment at Gannon on the road.
Yeah, momentum is a dangerous animal. I wanted to ask you about that. I know that you travel and you try to prepare to make it, but this is like a high school trip. I mean, this is taking you back to Friday Night Lights.
I agree.
How different is that, and what do you do to try to make that as normal as possible? Because I know when you travel on the road, you try to have a bus ride before you get there. What are you going to do? Yeah. Drive to Slippery Rock, turn around, and head up to Gannon to try to make things normal?
Yeah, well, it's funny because we talked about this morning in our coaching meeting. As far as a staff is, we're going to treat this like a home game. So that itinerary is going to be very familiar for our players. You mentioned the 20-minute bus ride up north, and so there's some familiarity there. I've been to Gannon. We were there in 2021, so it's a venue we are all familiar with here for the guys that have been in this program. It's a short trip. It's in our backyard, but again, it's their home turf. They have the home field advantage, quote unquote. You do know that we like playing on the road. We talk about that a lot. So, ultimately, whether we're at Sox Harrison or we're up at Gannon, we have to have a great week of practice. We have to put the work in every single day. I thought that Monday was a really good practice tonight. We're focused. Our ability to hit reset, Joe, Mercyhurst is long gone from our thoughts. Our sole focus is Gannon. And, we started today in prep, and we got to continue to go the rest of the week.
Now, you mentioned the rivalry. I mean, I sort of look at it, all the West games are rivalries, and there's been years. I've been doing this quite a while where somebody just sort of breaks out and has a good year, and all of a sudden that's a game. Oh, we were supposed to win that game, and then the next year they become a rival. Does it? I mean, it doesn't change the preparation.
No, and we talked about this last week. You had mentioned about the similarities with Mercyhurst, and every season, everybody's a new team. It presents different challenges. Every week for us, we're writing a chapter in the book. So this chapter, we're worried about Gannon. Gannon's a completely different outfit than they were a year ago. Scheme-wise, they're not, but their personnel is, they lost a lot of players. Their quarterback from a year ago, Curtis, was really
Blanks. The running back was terrific.
But look, and that's not their quarterback now is a different type of player, but he's a dual threat kid where Curtis was big, physical. The game that we played at Sox Harrison last year for homecoming, he was on a blown out ankle, and we put some shots on that kid, and he credit him, and I told him this after the game. I had a lot of respect for him, Joe, because he hung in there and he made plays. Tough, physical, scheme-wise, you're going to play to your strengths. And I think that Gannon this year on offense is doing a really good job playing to their offensive line strength. They have tremendous perimeter play. Their quarterback's a weapon. They got 2 running backs that I feel like that are really capable guys. The tight end, it goes top down, and then they're going to present a 3 down front for us on offense, and they're going to play the 3 high safety look. They have extremely physical guys in that secondary. This is another challenge for us on special teams. They play a lot of guys that play on offense and defense similar to we do. I mean, we are really going to have to be on our details this week for Gannon.
Gannon is one of those teams that, when you – I don't want to say find lightning in a bottle, but they sort of, they turned it around and were really, really good and had a lot of guys that earned all conference honors. Well, most of those guys are gone.
Right.
That's kind of the way it goes. Does last year's film, obviously you watch it, but are you watching last year's film or are you watching, focusing on this past game and the game prior, where maybe the new guy at quarterback has kind of gotten things figured out? They started out 0-3. I believe that was his first 3 career starts.
Yeah.
So that's he's got his feet underneath him, and now he's a confident guy because he's won 2 games in a row.
Absolutely. No, and again, I think that Eric does a really good job with their offense, where again, it starts with the offensive line. I know I keep saying that, but that's his baby. That's the position group that he works with, and he plays to their strengths, so they are going to do some things. They're going to have a wrinkle or 2. They have done that the last 2 years that we've played them. So we are going to have to be on our details defensively, because they throw a lot at you. They throw gap scheme. They throw zone scheme. They throw misdirection. They do a really good job, and I feel like attacking coverages in their pass game, and he gets their guys matchups to where they're going to try to expose you. And then defensively, with that 3 high safety and that odd front, they have the ability to bring a lot of different pressures. They have the ability to get guys into coverage and try to take away some matchups. And then from a special team standpoint, they have some legitimate guys on there that are going to try to create some mismatches. And, it's a well-coached football team. It's a physical football team, and it's one that we're excited to get an opportunity to go against on Saturday.
Now, of course, the big thing, and maybe the new thing, Matt Carlisle in the ground game. Trobel was terrific in the ground game. Shout out to the O-line one more time. They're still here. How important is it going to be? And I know this sounds cliche, but this is a game that there's a little bit extra juice to it in the fan bases. How important is it going to be for your offensive line to go out there and establish the ground game, the point of attack? How important is it going to be for you to open that way on Saturday to set that tone early?
I think, look, we talk about this all the time with our group. We have to win up front. And you had mentioned about the offensive line and the ability to run the football. That's what we want to do, and it's no surprise. Everybody has film. We got to get our ground game going, and that opens up the rest of our offense. And on defense, the same way. You saw, Joe, when you can control the line of scrimmage and limit them in the run game and then allow yourself to tee off a little bit in the pass game, your guys can feed up front, and we have to play complementary football. This is a game that is going to be won in the trenches. There's no doubt about it.
We got to give the people what they want. The Gannon Golden Knights, 2-game win streak on the road. 2 reasons you win, 2 reasons you lose.
I think that it's going to come down, and I look at last year's ball game in particular, and we talk about those lessons we need to learn. Is our splash plays versus their splash plays. They splash played us a lot last year and kind of got us out of sorts defensively. So we have to make people earn it. We don't want to give what we call bloodless plays where, you have bust or they gash you, whatever the reason may be. So on the flip side of that, we've been on that as far as the splash plays on offense, whether it's a big pass play, run, etc. So our ability to create plus 15 passes, plus 12 runs, and then take those away is a huge tell. And then it's going to come down to turnovers and those extra possessions. If you look at We did a really good job of not turning the ball over on Saturday. We had the 2 interceptions plus the surprise onside kick. When you go +3 and you have 3 extra possessions, ultimately you like your areas of success. So
the one thing I did want to ask you about, and I thought he played really well, and twofold. One was obviously I feel like Carlisle made the right read all but maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
And then secondly, a lot of 12 personnel. Brody List was mauling guys in the ground game. You know, you had A-Hop out there, wingback, but Brody was almost like a 6th offensive lineman.
Yeah.
When you watch the film, I mean, you had to be really pleased with that ground game and just the physicality that you preach each and every week.
Yeah, and that's the thing where we've been able to build off of that 12 personnel set. And you know what, Joe? You may see 13 personnel this week. I mean, I feel like we have 3 very capable
Jack
tight ends.
Hollenbaugh, yeah.
Right, with Hopkins and List and Hollenbaugh, where we could get a little bit more heavy and physical in that area. And I know that's something that Coach DeMayo and Coach Haw and the rest of the offensive staff like to do. So it is, to your point, it is the ability to establish the line of scrimmage, whether we're in 10 personnel, 11 personnel, 12, 13, whatever it is we're going to do, and be able to win up front is obviously with Matt in the dynamic that he brings to the table and Brian and our offensive line, we're going to continue to build on that.
Well, I want to thank Toby Cline and congratulate him one more time on his West Defensive Player of the Week. And, of course, a big win for the Borough over Mercyhurst last week. These shows are a lot more fun after wins.
Amen to that.
Special thanks to Bill Carell and his whole staff here at Charlie's Pub and Eatery just past the lake in Edinburgh, making us welcome. We'll be here again next week. And, of course,
go Burrow.
Jake Nulph Show will join you next week here live from Charlie's Pub and Eatery. Thank you for hanging out with us. 11 o'clock airtime and a noon kickoff on the Fighting Scots Radio Network, presented by ErieInjury.com.
At the 15, he's on his feet. 10, 5, touchdown!
The Jake Nulph Show.
Go Burrow.